of the FinCom for August 18th, 2021 at 6:30. The first order of business, and I don't see any public comment out there. So I don't see anybody I don't know or any numbers I don't know. I'll ask if there's any public comment. Hearing none, I will welcome our newest member. Nate had sent me a quick note. I'm gonna try not to butcher your first name. So yeah, how about you let me off the hook and just introduce yourself?
I was hoping you give it a shot. So it's pronounced, the proper way to pronounce it is Rigobert. But sort of the English version is Rigobert. I go by Rig.
I can do Rig. Rigobert, I can even do that.
You just did it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Rig, to the FinCom committee. We appreciate you volunteering. A number of us have been on the team for various lengths of time. I led the FinCom for about 4 years, and Nate has taken it over. So we are pleased that you have volunteered and joined the committee, and we're always willing to help with catching you up to speed on what's going on. And one thing I will suggest as you kind of get into the mix is Tony is super helpful, normally on the call. He's the finance director for Town of Bridgewater. He can kind of walk you through our balance sheet, our capital plan, some of the things that we talk about on a regular basis that I think in the past has been helpful for some of the newer members to help get you up to speed a little bit quicker. So once again, thanks for joining the committee, and we look forward to it. So.
Great, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet each of you. Susie, I already know you. It's
nice to see you.
It is good to see you. I didn't want to intervene as I believe you were away with your family, to make you aware that I've joined the committee. I will certainly touch base with Tony, and just start picking his brains and trying to get caught up with, where you guys are at. I will certainly do my best to get caught up. So it's a pleasure to meet everyone, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Welcome aboard.
With that, the next agenda item is the approval of the meeting minutes from 7/21. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Motion to approve?
Yes.
Second, Chris.
So MJ, I heard MJ, just for Josh's sake, MJ, motion to approve, second Chris. And Josh, I'll let you do the roll call if you don't mind.
Eric,
Yes.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Yes.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Rig, it's okay to abstain, not to tell you what to do, but you weren't part of the committee at that time, so it's fine to abstain.
you'll just have to take yourself off mute, Rig.
I will abstain. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thanks, Josh. Next order of business is FY 22-009, which is the acceptance of a mitigation payment, which I think, if I'm correct, is we have a grant of $11,600. I don't know if there's any discussion here, or if this one's pretty clear, but I will pause and let the team speak to it.
I don't have any questions. I'll make the motion to accept if everyone's good with the questions.
Second,
Julie, I think that was Julie first, and
Correct. Yes.
I apologize, I didn't hear the second. I know somebody seconded.
Susie, I think.
Okay.
It was
Susie said-
MJ that seconded.
Oh, MJ.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Thank you,
Yeah,
MJ.
I'm like, what did I second?
Oh, sorry, Susie. I'm driving. I don't know. Don't pay any attention to me.
No worries.
I don't
no
have
worries.
any faces, so I can't see anything.
All right, Josh, I'll let you do the roll call.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Sorry, forgot I was mute. Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ. MJ, you have to take yourself off mute.
aye.
Thank you.
The button
Rig,
didn't hold.
I will abstain as well.
thank you. The motion was approved.
You. And then the final piece of business for tonight, and I think I saw Mr. Dutton show up, so I appreciate, Michael, you jumping on the phone just to give us a little context to our last piece of business here tonight, which is FY 22-010, which is transfer for the downtown plan agreement. And I think it's a transfer, I'm going off memory as I scroll through the documents here of, I want to say $50,000, but I was hoping you could kind of walk us through what this was, Michael, and what we were voting on here tonight to give us a little bit more context. There was a good deal of information provided. I just don't know if everybody had a chance to read through it. So.
Okay, thanks, Eric. I apologize if you didn't get a really clear explanation, and actually, to be honest, I wasn't quite sure of the timing of when this would get to the finance committee. But let me give you a little bit of background. So in 2014, we had the town had commissioned or had been a few years before that, it commissioned sort of a downtown study, downtown revitalization study that came up with a number of recommendations on how to make changes in the downtown area. We took that, we began very slowly to adopt some of the changes that were recommended. And some of the changes that study recommended have met with some substantial resistance, both among the community and also with a number of the different land use planning boards. So in order to get some degree of consensus about how we should be planning for the downtown and making changes to the downtown, whether it be traffic reconfiguration changes or residential density changes or focusing redevelopment efforts in certain areas, we thought it probably made more sense now in 2021 to go to the community as a whole and try to get to the point where we have some level of consensus, which quite frankly is going to be really difficult, but I think it's going to be really important to get to a point where the council can buy into a specific plan with some degree of public support and some degree of engineering, support essentially, and then carry forward with funding. Because if we don't have a clear plan and we don't have clear public support and unanimous council support, it's going to be virtually impossible for us to go to Mass DOT and look for either direct funding through Mass DOT or MassWorks grant to accomplish what we need to accomplish in the downtown area. So this was an effort to essentially kind of pick up where that 2014 study left off and essentially update it and get enough community buy-in so that we can have essentially a unanimous council and unanimous planning board or ZBA or health buy-in on what we're trying to do in the downtown, which sets us up then for funding to be able to do the actual the actual work, the actual construction work in the downtown. So that's essentially the gist of this. It's also in the intervening years between 2014, 2015, and now, we've had obviously the opportunity fund or the opportunity zone has been designated, which is for our purposes essentially the east side of Central Square, and we want to make sure that we maximize that the use of the opportunity fund as much as possible, or I should say, we want to make sure that we are maximizing the opportunities for the private sector to maximize use of the opportunity fund. And we need to make sure that we can go to developers and sell that zone as a really good place to invest private money and essentially go to them and show them a plan that could reasonably be expected to be approved through the land use boards. So that's essentially, in a very, in a nutshell, what the downtown, the money for the downtown charrette would do. It would cover the cost of public meetings, public outreach, and then obviously the compilation of a final report and something that we could present to the council and say, here's what the people in Bridgewater want to see in their downtown. Here's what we recommend. Then they can vote to buy into that, and then we're kind of off and running. The only other piece I would mention in regard to this particular transfer request is that the council is going to meet in a workshop session specifically to discuss the downtown area, and they will be doing that. I think it's beginning of September. So it is very possible, and I told them this during the first reading, it is very possible that if they come up, if they say, you know what, we don't need, and possible, not likely, but if they say, you know what, we don't need a charrette, we are all on board with sticking with specifically with that 2014-2015 plan, and we are all set on traffic reconfiguration, let's plow forward, then we would not do the charrette. I would hazard to guess that the council won't do that, and that they'll actually want to see, some degree of public input before they're willing to commit one way or the other. So, but that's the only other piece. There is an outside chance that even if this gets through Budget and Finance Committee, that it might come back to the council and they may say, nope, it's unnecessary, so we don't need it. So that kind of gives you sort of the lay of the land there, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about it.
So Michael, I'll turn it over to the rest of the team in a half a second, but really appreciate the context there. We've been talking about the downtown for years. I think as people live in the downtown, I think one of the comments that people hear over and over again is, what else can we do there? How can we attract business? I think one of our biggest issues, as I'm sure the rest of the committee knows, is the parking in the downtown area. Simply put, it's tough to put in a restaurant when you can only fit 4 cars in front of what was my sister and I. I believe the one-time stabilization fund, the current balance is $194,000, and we're looking to use roughly $55,000 to run this, and just so that, and keep me honest here, Michael, anything that we don't use obviously goes back into the stabilization fund, but we usually ask for a little bit more so we don't have to come back and have a second conversation about why we're looking for additional funds to run this type of thing. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world, and I think is a real issue within Bridgewater that I think a number of people want to resolve, but I will get off my soapbox and let others ask questions that they may have.
So this is Julie. So where did we come up with, how did we come up with the figure that that's being requested here? Was it a bidding thing? Was it based on experience? Was it an inflation thing? Was it?
Nope.
I guess
No.
we
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Julie. We reached out to three or four groups, that do this kind of work, and we sort of took, just asking for rough estimates, and they've done, obviously all these groups have done similar exercises in other towns, so they gave us sort of a price range. This was sort of the average price that they came up with for projects roughly of similar scope and size as ours. So one or two groups actually submitted sort of formal proposals, and so this appropriation kind of fits right in with that with those numbers. So that's where we got the estimate.
figure. And what about the company itself? Like, do we have any references or recommendations? Like, you said they did similar scope, so were we familiar with what they did in those other similar scope areas, or no?
Yeah, oh no, yes, we have samples, and I don't, that probably should have been part of your package. We had one in particular, really good sample, which I can share, but I think it was Milton did a very similar project on a certain part of Milton, downtown area in Milton. And so, yeah, we haven't, I want to be clear, we haven't selected a firm. We're only at the appropriation stage. And if we go forward, we'll solicit formal proposals and review them, and then select the firm based on their experience and references and their prior work.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I just have a quick question. With respect to that amount, do we anticipate that this amount could increase, given everything that's going on with, COVID, and is this something that we're anticipating, or has that been already anticipated, and this is what the amount is?
Yep, no, Brig, that's a good question. We have essentially anticipated what the cost would be when we reached out to get verbal estimates. We wanted verbal estimates based upon today. What's it going to cost us today to do this work? So presumably the firms that responded and the two that responded with like a semi-formal proposal, both have calculated any of that additional expense into their proposals. And quite honestly, I didn't read them in meticulous detail, but I don't think either of them was really estimating any increase in cost relative to COVID. In fact, ironically, especially with consultants that do this kind of work, so much of their time, so you're spending the money to get their time, and they've actually, to the extent they can do things now with Zoom meetings and presentations, the amount of time they have to spend on our project actually is substantially less because they don't have driving expense, the time incurred in just getting to places. So ironically, for these specific types of this specific type of work, it's actually no impact and possibly favorable impact for us.
And what about a time frame? Is there a certain time frame we're looking at when this would actually begin or need to end by or anything like that? Not
yet. My intention is to move very quickly. If the council wants to go this direction, I would move very quickly to get people engaged. I would like to do it this fall and really make quite a public splash of it, because I want to get moving on, alteration. If we're going to make alterations to Central Square, I want to get moving very quickly on the engineering for that. There's, you know, a lot of money that's flowing to communities or to states in various forms. And I don't want to let that opportunity go by, whether it's going to be the infrastructure, federal infrastructure money, ARPA potentially, ARPA money, and anything else that flows through the federal Department of Transportation. So my intent would be to move very quickly.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Dutton.
MJ?
Michael, it's MJ Spagone. I do have a
MJ.
couple of questions. Hey, I have a couple of questions for you. First, since you mentioned a plan that had been, I guess, worked on back in 2014, is any of this going to be integrated into what's going to be done now? And then, again, getting back to the cost of it being $55,000, I know you said there's anticipation that it could go either way. It could be a little more, could be a little less. I guess what I'm wondering is comparable studies, when they initially do this, are they usually this cost? And then actually the last question I have, Michael, from the Community Economic Development Department's perspective, are they involved in any of this process as well? I would think Jennifer would have been involved in some of it or suggested anything.
Oh, no, that's a good question. I missed a little bit of it, MJ, because my phone was ringing, but I think your question was, you know, is Community and Economic Development, you know, looking at this as well, and are they, you know, endorsing this? Absolutely. This actually originated with Jennifer and her folks as sort of you know, trying to pick up where that 2014-2015 study left off. Absolutely, the consultant would use that as sort of the starting point, and go out and make sure that the points made in that study are still valid. To the extent they're not, then obviously we would change, you know, change our approach. But their intent, or you know, Community and Economic Development and Jennifer's intent is to really make sure that we can coalesce as much as possible around one plan. And once we get that one plan, then execute that one plan. So that's really the focus. And that's kind of what has stymied us a little bit, as I mentioned before, over the last few years, because there seems to be that we don't have universal buy-in on the 2014-2015 plan. So we're trying to get everybody on board and going in the same direction.
I do have a follow-up question. When you say everybody, does that include the folks at Bridgewater State as well, given the proximity of where the project is looking to be conducted? Are they a partner in this, or they're not?
They are not a partner in terms of financial resources, obviously, but they are a partner with us in trying to come up with a solution and make some substantial improvements to the downtown sort of Central Square area. Keep in mind it's quite beneficial to the university to have, you know, a traffic pattern that makes sense. We have worked pretty hard with them on some of their, you know, future planning and potential changes to their traffic patterns, which would help them and help the town substantially as well. So I envision the university is having quite active participation, certainly in the charrette and planning process. And then obviously we need the university's support when we go out to Mass DOT, looking for those, you know, Mass DOT funds and federal funds in order to actually do the project that we'll end up with. So they're a partner in, you know, certainly in the planning stage, and certainly a partner with us in supporting grant appropriations from the state and the feds to get the work done.
Hi, Michael. Can you just share, I don't know if you can share the name of the firms that you reached out to, or the ones that submitted the informal proposals?
We had two informal ones. I know one came from Barrett Planning Group, who was doing the some of the master plan work, and the other one was McMahon. I think McMahon gave us a proposal. They've done some very preliminary work on traffic alterations. So I'm pretty sure those are the two that sort of gave us, you know, semi-written proposals. And then we had some verbal cost estimates from I want to say Beta, and I'm not sure who the other one or two were off the top of my head.
I want to apologize. I do have another question. And you may have mentioned it, Michael, and I'm sorry if I missed it. What was the anticipated timeline to complete this project? And then the follow-up question is, has the analysis been done in terms of, you know, sort of funding for, you know, let's say, what's the word? To have traffic managed, monitored while the work is being done?
Let me, maybe I'll step back and describe. So the timeline, to answer your first question, Rick, timeline, at this point, I would expect that this would be largely wrapped up by the end of the calendar year. That would be my expectation. And I think that would mean really pushing to get it done. But I don't want to sacrifice the quality of work for time. So obviously I need to be a little flexible there, but that would be my expectation. On how sort of it works. So we're at the very beginning stages of planning. So we're in the conceptual phase of planning. So if we get to a consensus among the counselors to plow ahead with a specific plan, and it may be with or without, as I mentioned before, with or without, you know, the results of a sort of community-wide charrette. But if, regardless, either way, once we get to the point where the council buys in, has a plan, and endorses that plan, then we go and hire an engineering firm, and the engineering firm goes through sort of a phased-in process, giving us essentially a 25% design plan, 65% design plan, and then 100% design plan. And between the 65 and the 100% design plan, one of the deliverables that they have to give us, and that the Mass DOT requires, is a traffic management plan. So they tell us during construction, you know, here's how traffic is going to be managed, you know, throughout town. And obviously we have a lot of input in that. Our public safety folks have a lot of input in that. And but that comes really as part of the engineering phase, which is probably at this point, that particular part of that phase would probably be well into next year, you know, probably a year from now, if you know, timing plays out the way I expect it would. Did that answer the question?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Rig, the only thing I'll add to that is you know, any additional spending when we get to that engineering phase, if the study's approved, would come back through the FinCom to be discussed on what the cost would be to do these enhancements, to hire the engineering firm, et cetera, et cetera. So we do see all the next phases of this project, if in fact it moves forward.
Thank you.
Right. That's a good point, Eric.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one more question for Michael. I guess, well, maybe not a question, more or less a concern. What I'm hearing is a lot of ifs and whens, and I know you have an accelerated timeline to try to get it done before the end of the year, Michael. I guess one, how feasible do you feel that is to be able to get that done before the calendar year ends? And also getting back to the buy-in from various stakeholders. Do you see this funding being the make or break part of it? If you bring this forward to the council, you tell them it's only going to be 55,000, they take your word as gospel on that, and then if, worst comes to worst, it doesn't pan out, does that turn into a $55,000 gamble that we just basically frittered away? I want to see the money be used in a manner that's going to get this type of project done, only because downtown has had issues for literal decades. And having lived in this town for decades, that's, it can be frustrating to try to get stuck in Central Square when you got to get one side or the other.
Yeah, no, that's, centuries. I mean, I think the horses had a hard time going around Central Square. I would say, in terms, MJ, of your first question, the feasibility of the timeline, as I think I mentioned in response to Rig's question, I never want to sacrifice quality for timeline. So my expectation would be that we can get this done by the end of the calendar year. I would be quite aggressive about doing that, fully recognizing that, I'm not gonna pound away on a consultant to get this done if it's gonna result in shoddy, quality. I don't want shoddy quality. I want it to be done right. But as I say, I think it's absolutely feasible. We had a conversation with a couple of the firms about timelines, and they both said, it's actually better, to get a quick snapshot and get it done quickly, so that you get a reflection of what the community thinks right now. It's kind of their gut reaction, and so their preference would be to do it quickly. So I just put that out there just as a kind of a marker, I guess. In terms of, it's I think the other part of your question was sort of something akin to, the reputation of government is we do these studies, they sit on a shelf. This one, this report, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a study, I'd call it a report, is designed to give us, here's what the community, well, now that the community is educated, because education is part of it, but now that the community is really educated and given different options, here is what the community could support. That, I think, is critically needed, obviously, for people that use Central Square, and almost everybody in Bridgewater uses Central Square at some point, and also, gives information to the council that they can use to base a decision. So that's I think that's the important piece here. And as I've said a couple times, if for some reason the council says, nope, we are dead set, in favor of X, Y, and Z in the downtown area, then we don't need to do a community charrette. But I'm guessing that that's not going to be the case with the council, and I can certainly understand why it wouldn't be the case with the council, because it's a potentially major change for Bridgewater, and I think they would want to give the community some opportunity to input those potential changes.
Great. Does anybody have any additional questions for Michael?
Yeah, I do. It's Julie. Michael, you mentioned that how much did we pay for the report that was not universally accepted in 2014 or whatever that 15? Do you know how much that report cost?
Oh boy. You know what? That was actually funded prior to my tenure, and I think the university may have contributed a little bit of money, and then I think I think the state had actually, in one of the state programs at the time, had contributed a little. I want to say it was, I want to go out on a limb and say it was in the $20,000 range, $20,000+ range. It was
yeah,
not,
my concern is similar to what MJ was referring to. You know what I mean? You spend the money and then people aren't on board, then is it money well spent? And then the other question was, if it wasn't universally accepted, which group didn't accept it that put the, the stop sign up, or, that stopped it from going forward or prevented it
I
from
think-
going forward?
Yeah, I don't think I could identify a group necessarily. I think as the more time, one of the problems was that report, and I would have, had I been here earlier, I would have probably intervened. But Bridgewater at that time had no capacity to do any of the kind of projects that were suggested in that report. So we didn't have the internal capacity. We didn't have the money, quite frankly, to do almost anything related to that report. So that report, almost by definition, was going to sit on the shelf until Bridgewater came around and we got our house in order. And when those kinds of things, when time goes by, it just, people will find, and it's human nature, people will find a reason not to kind of buy into the change, even though the condition of or the traffic patterns in Central Square just are make no sense. Any change is going to be opposed by some number of people. So I think it was more, Julie, that people weren't, the community as a whole didn't buy in, and just, I guess, collectively, not I wouldn't identify a
Okay,
specific
not a
group.
particular group. Okay, that's
Yeah,
clear.
and that makes it, when that's the scenario, it makes it very hard as a practical matter. It makes it very hard for your elected officials, to go out on a limb and support, a change. That's
Right, but now if we're doubling the money we're going to spend, we're going to be in the same scenario. I guess that's my concern.
well, that's
Uh-huh.
but we're in a different place, though. I think that's the important point. We're in a different place, in terms of, we don't have all the capacity in the world by any means, but we've got expertise and capacity and a structure now that we can use to actually get some of these things done. And that's, that makes it a little different than the 2014 study. The other part of it is that the 2014 study had a very limited, community outreach piece, and it had a very limited scope. So it really was quite narrow in some senses. What they looked at was quite narrow. They had a lot of suggestions, but the sort of the data and the groups that 2014 report reached out to were kind of limited. So this is an opportunity to get built, have a larger scope, have a actual written, documented step-by-step plan on how we move forward on the changes that by consensus we all kind of agreed to.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The only thing I'll add to that too is that, and I think most people probably have some feeling of what was going on in 2012, 2013, 2014 in Bridgewater. But we had, a different form of government. We did not have a finance and accounting department. We were not reporting our finances regularly. We did not have a stabilization fund. And the list goes on and on and on, right? We were laying off fire and police officers. It was a completely different economic time. So my guess is the appetite for a heavy investment in something that I think we all need or know was needed was not that high at the time. I think
Prioritize, right?
we're in a much different place today.
Good point.
Any other?
Eric, if
Go
I
ahead,
could,
Michael.
the only other thing I would point out, and I'm sure Tony probably hasn't reported out yet because we're just sort of formulating guesstimates at this point, but we are looking at a very healthy, as a lot of cities and towns are, very healthy free cash certification sometime this fall. And so the one-time, all the capital stabilization, the one-time stabilization, our sick buyback account, the regular stabilization account, all of those things you'll see pretty substantially funded once we get to the free cash certification. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Dutton tonight? Does anybody?
Motion to
want-
approve.
Chris, thank you.
Second,
MJ, second. Josh? I'll allow you to do the roll call.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great. Before I ask the last question, just if we are done with Mr. Dutton, I would like to thank him for his time tonight and let him off the hook.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and hey, welcome. I'm really excited because I think we've got a great finance committee. I think I have one seat to fill, but I'm sure I won't be able to fill it with anybody that's better than the members that are there now. So I really appreciate the folks that are there, and welcome to Rig and MJ. Happy to see you there.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Michael.
right, I will sign off. Good to well, I haven't really seen very many people because I'm in the car, but good to hear everybody.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye,
Have a
Mike.
good night,
Thank
Michael.
you.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
I don't have any additional items for discussion listed, but I will just pause and see if the team has any questions, comments, concerns before looking for a motion to adjourn.
Eric, would it be possible to have Michael come back for the next meeting just to give us a good idea of how things went for the end of the fiscal year? I'd love to see what our numbers were for collections and basically the closing out of the books for the year. I know most of our colleague towns and cities, I know mine, where I'm working in Avon right now, we're doing all of our, closing of the books for the year. We're going to be getting ready to do our audits, but I would like to know what our numbers look like for the end of FY21 and see where we stand going into FY22, and probably maybe even get a bit of a spice of flavor for what could be the budget process for FY23.
Yeah, MJ, that's a great ask, and so I'll Josh, if we could just reach out to Michael and Tony after the meeting, and ask that they report on that. MJ, just one question to clarify. I think in many cases Tony would report that to us. I don't have a problem asking Michael, but if Tony's available, is that fine with you, or do you want to make it?
I'm okay with it. I just want to try to go through the proper channels, start with the top, let the process flow downward. I would totally expect Michael and Tony to hopefully be in the meeting with us. It'd be great to hear it from the messaging part of it, which would be Michael, and then hear it from the, I guess you would say, the more logistical approach, which Tony will be
The
able to provide
financial.
our finance director. I usually appreciate hearing it from both sides. I want to be able to hear the 10,000-foot view, and then if we want to get into the weeds about things, we can ask Tony down to exactly how much we got for excise.
Okay, great. Josh, we can certainly ask that.
Yep, I will. I'll get that email sent out, and then MJ, if you have any specific questions that you'd like answered during that, feel free to just send them my way. That way I can have them take a look and get prepared for it.
I'll send them shortly after the meeting.
Excellent.
Thanks, MJ. Anyone else?
Speaking of the next meeting, do we know what the date would be? And I thought we were going back to 7 o'clock, but I don't know if maybe I misunderstood at the last meeting.
If I am correct, and I don't know that I am, because
Because we met at 6:30 tonight.
no, I think Nate worked through it. I do believe you are correct, Julie, in saying we had talked about moving it to 7 o'clock. What I'll do, I believe the next meeting, to answer the first part of the question, is 7:30, right? Or am I counting one too many weeks in August? Did we have a meeting on the 3rd, I guess is a better way to ask it, or was there supposed to be a meeting on the 3rd? I'm sorry, I'm not doing math right. The 4th, I guess it would have been.
I can help out with this, Eric, just because of how the town council is during the summer, they only have one meeting a month. We didn't have anything on the agenda, so we went ahead and just planned for the 18th. So we're still looking at the first and third Wednesday.
Okay.
The town council doesn't meet until the 7th, so that would put us at, let's see, the 15th for September.
Or would it be the 8th?
Well, that would be the second Wednesday. If we wanted to stick with the first
I
and
got
third
you,
Wednesday,
gotcha. Yep, first and 5th.
Well, wouldn't the first, if the 15th is a, okay, so, okay, got it.
You're saying there's not another town council meeting before now and then.
right, the next town council meeting is on the 7th.
So we would not have anything to discuss if we were to meet before the 15th. Because their
Correct.
meeting is the 7th. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. I think that's super helpful for the entire group. And in the meantime, I'll work with Josh and Nate offline to see if we're gonna move that to 7. At the very least, I'll be
Yeah,
prepared.
yeah, but that's my daughter's birthday, so I'm probably not gonna, if that's the date, I'm probably not making it anyway.
Okay.
So,
Yep, that's fine,
I mean,
but we'll still get the answer
Okay.
for you, Julie, on whether or
Thank
not
you.
we're moving it to 7 or not. Yep, makes sense.
thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Second.
adjourn,
Second.
Chris. Second, I did not get. I got Chris, the motion to
Second,
adjourn.
Julie.
Second, Julie.
Okay, Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night. Thank you all.